Hello and welcome to a Lady Universe movie review. I'm and I'm your host, Lady Universe, and today is a very special and honorary day, especially in the realm of talking about movies and especially animation, because today I'm talking about SpongeBob Sponge on the Run, and I am one of the biggest SpongeBob fans that you will probably ever meet. And this film has really broadened my horizons. And I'll be honest with you, folks and guys and gals at home, I had no interest in reviewing this film at all for a while. I think I've caught half of it once on Nickelodeon, just the first half of it, and I'm like, I can't watch this anymore. I was like, I'm done, because the animation was just like unique for me. It wasn't something that I was expecting. I was expecting like, the animation from the other SpongeBob movies, like the hand drawn animation that I grew up with for years. But then the animation kind of grew on me a little bit after watching it, and especially since it's probably one of the funniest animated films I've seen so far this year. Just to let you people notice is that there are more animated movies that I intend to check out for this year, so stay tuned for that. But before I get into the actual review, I do have to mention something really quick here. Even though this movie is 3 years old, I'm still gonna mention this ahead of time. Spoilers are ahead. So if you haven't seen Sponge on the Run, you can skip out on this video. Spoilers are ahead. So SpongeBob has been on television for over 20 years. He's one of the longest running cartoon series for years. I mean, over 20 years by this point, and he's still going strong with his 15th or 16th season going up pretty soon. And that just is amazing in itself that this project is still being worked upon, especially with Stephen Hillenburg, the creator, no longer being with us. He passed away, unfortunately, in 2020. And, things haven't been the same ever since. This was the last project that he had worked on, and the director and writer of this film, Tim Hill, did an amazing job of honoring the Stephen Hillenburg era of SpongeBob, which is my favorite era of SpongeBob. I love all the Stephen Hillenburg co-created episodes of SpongeBob a lot more than the new era, because I can't get into the new era for the life of me. I've tried, but the new era of SpongeBob is like, yeah, it trying to be what I grew up with and what I still love, but it's not. It just it can't be. It can't be SpongeBob to save the life of it, in my opinion, and it just can't. It's trying to, but it just can't. So the one thing that this film does very, very well is explaining the origin of basically SpongeBob and his pet snail Gary. SpongeBob and Gary had been around for years. SpongeBob was always taking care of his pet snail. He loves his little Gary Bear, and he would do anything in the world to protect Gary. They also show us right away that when SpongeBob leaves for work, Gary gets very depressed. It's a very iconic two pets that have separation anxiety and hate their owners leaving. And then the film kind of plays us to the delicacy of what SpongeBob basically goes to for his everyday life for life activity, annoying his friends and neighbors, and just being a loudmouth. But I can hear a lot of you asking, but what is the goddamn story? What is the whole point of this movie and what is going on? Okay, well, I don't know the story of the second SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water. I think it has to do with Antonio Banderas stealing the Krabby Patty formula. I might be wrong on that. I might be totally talking out of my ass here. But I also do believe, but the first movie, the very first one that came out, I think like almost 20 years ago by this point, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, is that it was all about King Neptune's crown being stolen, and also Mr. Krabs is, you know, going to be executed. So that was pretty awesome too. That King Neptune was like a very nice guy, and he's like, "Thou shalt not fucketh with my crown, or I kill you." And that movie still to this day is one of the funniest animated movie I have ever seen. But the story of this one is kind of iconic to an episode that came out a little bit after the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, which was something that Nickelodeon talked about for years and years and years. And that was the episode, I think it's called Gary Come Home, where Gary ends up finding an old lady. He ends up becoming her pet snail for a while, and or she kind of steals him, and then at the end of the point. So, who in SpongeBob mythology do you think would have the motive, have the gall, have the downright ambiguity of stealing Gary? Yeah, it's Sheldon J. Plankton. Did you really need any explanation for that one? It's fucking Sheldon, okay? If anything had to go wrong in SpongeBob history, it always had to be Plankton. And I just gotta say that Plankton was kind of like the unique talent throughout this. I really did love him, especially when it built up to him. And I was like, this is gonna be Plankton written all over it. And, well, yes, it was Plankton written all over it. But before it got there, the whole entire explanation of why Plankton keeps failing what caught me very interested in the film itself. The movie showed us that for years Plankton has failed and failed and failed to get the Krabby Patty formula, and he just doesn't know why. By the way, this is kind of a small little Easter egg, but I love the wall of failure that Karen made because of references to older episodes. Like you can see SpongeTron up there. You can see where Plankton would turn into a can of tuna. That's actually pretty funny. Just a lot of like Easter eggs and references. You can see one of the references is like where Plankton accidentally broke his leg at the Krusty Krab and when he tried to shoot Mr. Krab. So it's really a funny, unique time. I kind of had a laugh just looking at all the Easter eggs and references. So as it turns out, Plankton is not as successful because it's SpongeBob and not Mr. Krabs, and this has Plankton trying to figure out how he can get rid of SpongeBob so he can steal the formula. So he decides to sell Gary to the King of Atlantis, King Neptune, for some strange reason, and that becomes the whole plot of the entire film. And I think I figured out why I love this movie a little bit. Not as much as I do, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, but almost to that point. It's because this is this SpongeBob SquarePants movie, just rewritten and redesigned with a whole new all-star cast. Like they have Snoop Dogg in the movie, Danny Trejo, and especially Keanu Reeves. And I was like, it didn't hit me at first until I started thinking about it later on when I first saw this movie, and I was like, oh God, this is just a SpongeBob SquarePants movie, but it's kind of like rewritten so you wouldn't figure it out. But if you're a diehard fan like I am, like I'm one of the biggest SpongeBob SquarePants fans, out there, and it's just kind of unique that that's the style that Tim Hill decided to go with. He kind of like, okay, let's kind of put in a little bit of what Stephen Hillenburg did with the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. That's still a sacred movie due to the day that a lot of SpongeBob fans will fucking kill you if you do anything to hinder it. So they're like, we're just gonna take this and protect this. Just shh, we're gonna take this in a safe place and we're just gonna protect it for the rest of our lives. So it didn't hit me until eventually that yes, this is the SpongeBob SquarePants movie that involves SpongeBob and Patrick, similar to the first time around. This isn't the case where something is stolen, like Gary, and then SpongeBob and Patrick had to travel around the world to try to get Gary back because they don't know exactly what happened to poor Gare Bear. The film does have everything the original SpongeBob movie had. The comedy, the atmosphere, the writing, everything is a goddamn masterpiece throughout this entire film. But it's not just a film about SpongeBob trying to find himself or trying to find the courage that exists within him, similar to the SpongeBob movie. There is something more that makes it so much more sweeter. The movie also plays very heavily upon the idea of friendship, especially having a new origin story for how SpongeBob met all of his faithful friends and neighbors. I think this was a very creative choice for the director of the film, Tim Hill, to kind of go this direction because there's over easily 1,000 episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants alone, and it's kind of like, okay, so we have over 1,000 episodes of a beloved children's franchise. So we have two options. we can go back and we watch all these episodes on this hand, but then we can also have things that we really want on this hand. So Tim Hill decided to kind of go in the middle, like, let's combine what people love about the older franchise and kind of give them a new light, and let's kind of put them together. Let's try to see if this piece of the puzzle will fit here. And I think Tim Hill did a tremendously freaking beautiful job at combining something new with something old and give it a flavor that I haven't seen in an animated property before. Because yeah, it's still SpongeBob SquarePants, but it's something that's very new that I put together very easily. It's like, oh, so Tim Hill is going with a new way of introducing SpongeBob and how he met Sandy, how he met Squidward, how he met Patrick, how he met Mr. Krabs. And I was kind of hoping that they wouldn't make Mr. Krabs a kid because I'm like, Mr. Krabs is older than SpongeBob, so this wouldn't make any damn sense if you people have done this. But thankfully, no, that's not the case. But if you've seen the SpongeBob series, SpongeBob Camp Coral, this all makes sense. But I haven't done it. I know that it exists, but I have never seen it. But it was a very powerful way to get across just what SpongeBob means, like just how near and dear of a friend that he is to all Bikini Bottom. And that was just really damn charming and really impressive that SpongeBob means so much to all these people that he had met in Bikini Bottom because of his friendly impact. I think the film does an amazing job at introducing just how important that SpongeBob SquarePants means to the whole community and just how much power that he had behind just his friendship. SpongeBob is a superhero. His power is that he can make friends with anybody and everyone that he so chooses. And in a sense, it's kind of adorable when you think about it. The countless friends that SpongeBob makes himself is just rather damn impressive. He has friends, he has families, he has loved ones, and he's just a downright friendly person. And the scene later on in the movie where Patrick, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and Sandy's all talking about SpongeBob and how powerful that he is and mean to them really captured my heart. That's not actually the really part of this movie. That's not what this movie is about at all. What this movie is about, actually, is not just friendship. That's one of the messages. The bigger message is about pet adoption. Yeah. There is the scene later on where King Neptune unleashes all of his pet snails after SpongeBob becomes his friend, and they all get adopted from Bikini Bottom, and I thought that was pretty adorable for Stephen Hillenburg and Tim Hill to kind of be like, hey, go out and adopt a pet. And you know what? You really should. I do not have an adopted pet. I would love to have one in the future, but I can agree to that message. That is a really good, charming message to give to kids. Go out and adopt a pet. Adopt a dog. Adopt a cat. Adopt a goldfish, even if it makes you happy. You know, anything that makes you happy is really just worth it, in our opinion. But I think that the bigger message really from it is basically just trying to explain just how, decent of a friend that SpongeBob is. And so the real bigger message behind the story is just not pet adoption. It just goes to show you how much that friendship means because the film mostly was trying to get across that SpongeBob and Gary are lifelong friends, and just like pets in real life, they are a friend for life. So SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge Out of Water isn't a bad film. I wouldn't necessarily call it the greatest film that was ever made, truthfully, but it's still a good film despite some flaws that it does have. But the thing is, after realizing that yes, this is for kids, and I'm a 28-year-old YouTuber that's trying to explain these things, did I mention I was a fan of SpongeBob? I mean, this should be obvious by this point, people. This should be obvious. This should be a thing that you people should see. But yet, it's still kind of like, okay, for what it is, I can still like it. But before my rating, let's give my final thoughts on the project, shall we? SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge on the Run movie is not a bad film by any means necessary, but it is one for a certain audience to really get into, to try and enjoy, SpongeBob fans alike. It really is up to the viewer whether they're going to like this movie or hate this movie, so go and check it out if you haven't seen it yet, because you might find something that you might like inside of this very movie. In the end, to its fullest extent and to its fullest point, this is a SpongeBob movie, and it should be enjoyed for just being a downright, very amazing SpongeBob film. SpongeBob Sponge on the Run should be seen and enjoyed by everybody, so go and check it out if you haven't had the chance yet. And which is why the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run, pun intended, will get an Aquaman. Because it did kind of rise above my expectations. I was kind of like going to come in here and hate the film a little bit because, not really just with the animation style, because I was kind of like, okay, the film kind of had lost me a little bit in a way. But then it gets back my attention, especially later on in the movie, to where I had to applaud it, and it really did tear me up when I saw the original Stephen Hillenburg sketch of SpongeBob, and it said in memory of Stephen Hillenburg. I was like, that hit me right here, Mr. Hill. You have teared me, my good man. Damn you! Damn you and your talent! But still, go and check out SpongeBob Sponge on the Run movie. It's a really good, really impressive, just downright awesome film, and I highly recommend it to any and all SpongeBob fans, young and old. So, especially if you have kids, or if you're a babysitter, or whatever, or even at school if you're ever looking for a movie day, I highly recommend checking out SpongeBob SquarePants Sponge on the Run. It cannot be dismissed. That's a great movie. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this Radio Universe movie review. I will see you guys next time with some more geeky and nerdy things that I will end up talking about. And hey, I'm Radio Universe, and I'm White and Nerdy, and I will see you guys next time.